Hello and welcome to Boston Scientific's Marina Bay Customer Fulfillment Center. I'm Bill Ballin, Director of Distribution Operations. Today you're going to have the unique experience to see our business operations in conjunction with our system applications. Before we get started, I thought it's important for you to understand a little bit more about our operations and what you're about to see. Located just a few miles south of Boston, the Marina Bay Customer Fulfillment Center is comprised of customer order entry, return goods, customer contract and database management, sales representative support, U.S. distribution, international inventory replenishment to our international distribution centers, and some small custom kitting operations. The majority of our orders are phoned into our call center, which is supported by approximately 100 customer service representatives who will take over 75,000 phone calls, resulting in over 70,000 orders each month. In addition to our phoned orders, we receive approximately 29% of our orders through faxes. Lastly, we offer electronic data interchange for those customers preferring to do business electronically. Those make up approximately 14% of our monthly order volume. Distribution is comprised of receiving or inbound, quality control, returns and complaints, inventory replenishment, pick, pack, and shipping, international inventory replenishment, literature and sales rep trade shows, and custom kitting. The United States distribution operations processes over 550,000 units each month to our U.S. customers. Over 90,000 pick lists are generated, and we ship over 110,000 parcels monthly. Our international operations processes over 160,000 units each month to our distribution centers in the Netherlands, Japan, Singapore, Australia, Canada, and Latin America. On behalf of the Marina Bay staff, welcome to our operations, and we hope you enjoy your tour.
The bsci facilities deliver their product to the sterilizer, and then the trucking companies would make an appointment to come to Quincy. And what happens is the trucking company makes an appointment. Usually 7 a.m. is usually around when we get it from the sterilizer. And they back up to one of the receiving doors. We then proceed in taking the product off of the truck and putting it into the lanes. Product that's ETO sterilized has holes in it so the gas can go through the box and into the product. And boxes without holes are usually gamma sterilized, and those are using gamma rays. Once the truck is completely unloaded, we verify that the total shipment's here, that there are no damages, and if there are damages, we'd note that on the bill of lading. We'd find the paperwork on the sterile loads, and we check in the packing slip by verifying that the part, lot, and quantity is the same on the packing slip as it is on the SAP-generated label. Once that's completed, we bring the paperwork into the office. In SAP, we type in the transaction VLO2. Once that screen comes up, we type in the delivery note number that's on the packing slip. We then hit enter, which will bring us into a screen that lists the part numbers and the quantities. We go up to header and transport relevant info, and that will bring us to a screen that we can mark ZARV, which ZARV stands for arrived in Quincy. What the VLO transaction does, it marks it in-house, but doesn't actually transfer it into Quincy's inventory, so it cannot be sold. Once that's completed, we save it, and then we sign the paperwork marking that the VLO transaction is completed, the date and the initials of the person that completed the transaction. And then we move it over into the quality assurance area and sign the paperwork into quality assurance. On the QA log, we fill in the date that we're bringing it over, the time that it was brought over, the SAP delivery note number, the sterilization load number, the quantity of pallets that we're bringing over to quality assurance, and then we just initial it with whoever's bringing it over.
Okay, the product has just been received into the quality assurance quarantine area. When the product is here, it's in a restricted location as far as SAP is concerned. The product remains restricted in this area until it completes the inspection process. The inspection process is basically a verification that the load is free of any damage and that the product lot and quantities match what we were supposed to receive from the processing plants. The inspector will complete an inspection report. That report is then given to a sterility inspector who will use that documentation as part of the justification to release the load. In addition to that, there's also a sterility inspection that's basically a documentation verification that the load has gone through its sterilization process and has met specifications. Once that process is complete, there's an additional verification to ensure that the product has not been placed at any type of shipping hold from the plant. And once that is complete, the product will be released to finished goods.
Well, at this point, we're currently in the overstock area. We had just received batch or material from our QC department. Physically moved to our area, and then the transaction or the paperwork actually goes to our inventory control team, which they do an actual data entry transaction, which moves it from QC into a bulk location, which is actually a staging location right here on our floor. Once it's been transacted and it's moved, it creates a put-away traveler. Once the put-away traveler is created, the inventory control team then hands it over to our overstock team, and then they do a actual visual check part number, lot number, and quantity. Once the verification is complete, they then physically move the product into an overstock location, note that location, and then that is also keyed into the system so that we know where to find that actual product in the future when we're ready for our replenishment process. In our forward pick area, all parts have a designated location with a min-max balance. Anything that goes below that minimum balance throughout the course of a day when we're actually doing our picking function shows up on our replenishment report that prints up overnight, so that in the morning our overstock team will come in and replenish those items from our overstock area into our forward pick area. The way they actually do the replenishment is they take this report, it tells them where to pick the product from the overstock area. They drop it off into a staged area. Another employee will then pick it up on a pallet jack and run it down the put-away aisle and then replenish those particular locations of forward pick. This replenishment report is printed from SAP, which puts it in a FIFO, first in, first out sequence. So when we actually do our replenishment of the forward pick location, it is also in FIFO sequence.
This is customer service in Boston Scientific. This room is for our phone representatives who take calls from hospitals all over the country for our medical devices. Primarily they use SAP to enter the customer's orders, but they can also look up customer pricing and check the availability of items as well. Once the order is in SAP, if the customer wants to find out where their order is, they can call in here and we can look up their order and tell whether we've shipped it, whether we've invoiced them. We can get the FedEx tracking number from SAP as well. And once the orders are placed here,
then the distribution center receives the delivery and they know what to pack and ship to the customer. Okay, I'm going to enter a sales order that we received from a customer, and in order to do that, I use transaction code VA01, which is to create a sales order. And this particular order is a standard order, and so the code that we use is OR. And below that is where we fill in our organizational data, which is basically just designating that I'm in the United States and I'm placing an order for a U.S. customer. I'm going to enter the customer's account number, and every customer has a unique account number for them. Part of their account number is made up of a bill to party, and that's where we send the invoice. So I'm going to verify that their name and address are correct and hit enter to select which option I want. Now it's asking me to verify the ship to party. This is where the product is going to be shipped, and I'm going to also hit enter to select the option that I want. At this point, I have to enter the purchase order number, and then I just hit enter. Then I enter the shipping method that the customer would like the product shipped. In this case, the customer wants regular shipping, so I'm going to put a code in here that designates that it's going to go FedEx 2-day. Okay, I'm going to enter the part number that the customer has requested along with the quantity that they've requested, and then when I hit enter, SAP will calculate the price for that customer, which you can see is $160, and it gives me the product description as well with a unit of measure. In this case, the product is a box of 5, designated by the BX5. And the fact that SAP took me to the next line item, I know means that that item is in stock. If the item had been on back order, I would have gone to a different screen and had to have made a selection on that screen. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the second item. In this case, they want 4. Again, it comes up in stock, and I can see the price and the unit of measure, which in this case is in each, because I don't see any box designation in the description. I'm going to enter the last item on this order, and again, that item is in stock, and I get the price. And normally, if the customer service rep is on the phone, they're going to be reading back all of these numbers, all the prices, to confirm with the customer that we're entering exactly what they ordered.
And can I get your first item number, please? 125242 for 1 is available, priced at $130.50 each. 125243 for 2 is also available, priced at $130.50 each.
In this screen, I'm going to enter the ordering method, and by ordering method, we mean did it come in via telephone, fax, or EDI. And in this case, I am entering a fax order, so I'm going to put FX. And it's for our microvasive endoscopy division, so we have a 2-letter code for every division. In this case, it's EN. And down here, we would put in the customer name so that we were able to contact the person that placed the order, along with their department, which generally is purchasing, and we'll enter their telephone number so that if there are any questions later, we could reach them. And now I'm going to save the order because I entered all the items they wanted, and I have all the information that I need. And in order to save, I just hit a function key. Once the order's been saved, SAP generates a unique number for this sales order, and you can see it's 3905105. And that's the sales order number that will stay with us throughout. And if the customer needs to call back and ask any questions, if they have that number, we can pull it up relatively quickly. If they don't have that number, we can still find their order based on their customer number and their purchase order number. This is the document flow that we look at for every sales order. If, say, we got an inquiry to find out where the sales order was, have we shipped it, have we billed it yet, this is where we go. And basically what this is showing me is that the order has been placed, and that's designated by the gray line that has the order number. And then once the delivery and the picking request are generated in the distribution center, the other 2 lines appear here. So the fact that they are showing, and I have a document number for each of those, I know that all 3 of those documents exist. And as soon as we move on to the next stage in the order progression, you'll see additional documents get added to this.
Throughout the course of the day, customer service is taking orders at this point. While they're taking orders, it prints down to our pick list printers down in our distribution center. It basically prints into two separate categories. We have our yellow tickets, our yellow pick list, which means 3 to 5 days, and then we have our green pick list, which means next day service. Once the pick lists are printed, they are handed out to a picker who actually uses the pick list to go to a designated location. They check location, the actual product they actually pick, and the quantity. Once they have picked it, they record that lot number of that product onto the pick list, put it on their cart, and then they roll it up into our shipping area. Once the shipper receives the order, they then scan the delivery number off the pick list. Then they scan the actual part number to record the lot number for traceability. Once the lot number is scanned, they do a post-good issue scan, which then decrements inventory. Once inventory is decremented at this point, it will create an invoice at our headquarters in Natick and also create a packing list for shipping. Once the SAP transaction is completed, we toggle over to Arista, which is our shipping system. At this point, the package is packaged, it's placed on the scale. Then the delivery is scanned again into the shipping system. Once it's scanned into the shipping system, then we designate how many packages this order is, and then we scan the actual dimensions. Once the dimensions are scanned, this creates a shipping label, which we then place on top of the package, put on our conveyor, and then it's sent on to FedEx at this point. Once packages are placed on the conveyor, they are all fed to our FedEx area, which is then an overhead scanner scans in the tracking number into their FedEx tracking system. Once that's completed, we have a FedEx team physically in our building that actually does a sortation into these canisters. Once they're sorted into the canister, depending on shipping zone, these canisters are then taken off our dock into the back of a truck and on their way to Logan Airport. These canisters are then taken to the airport, where they are put on planes, taken to various FedEx hubs throughout the United States for delivery.
Now that the package has been shipped, you can see another line has been added to the document flow, and that appears underneath the picking request. It's referred to as the post-goods issue, or right here it says goods issue. It has its own document number, and at that point we consider the package as shipped, and even if a customer were to call back right now and say, I don't want that anymore, or I need to change something, and it may be sitting out in the warehouse about to go on the FedEx truck, but we consider it shipped at that point. So we would have to either enter another order for them or create a return if they had a problem with their order. On this screen, you can see two more stages have been added to the document flow. The first is the invoice, which appears directly beneath the goods issue, and the second is the accounting document. These two documents obviously have to do with the billing of the customer and appear here. Once we see that an invoice and an accounting document have been created, we consider the order closed.
Hello, I'm Professor Joe Gelinas of the Department of Accountancy at Bentley College. The video that you have just seen depicts the operations and information systems of a typical modern business process. We try in our accounting information systems textbooks and in the classroom to give you some sense of how these systems work in practice. However, it is not until you see a system such as the one at Boston Scientific that you can really appreciate the complexity of such processes. As you reflect on this video, you might want to consider how Boston Scientific uses the SAP system and the related manual processes to help it achieve its information systems and operations objectives. It is through the use of SAP, a typical enterprise resource planning system, and those manual processes that Boston Scientific monitors its operations and can answer internal and external queries. And finally, they can make sure that their business events are recorded in a valid, accurate, and complete manner. I hope that you have enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed working with the people at the Marina Bay Customer Fulfillment Center to prepare it.